Imagine that it's a beautiful sunny day. You are sitting in a restaurant, sipping coffee and browsing the internet on your smartphone. Suddenly, an attractive girl is passing next to your table. Fashionable clothes, nice tan, wonderful body, charming smile. Even if you are not a single, it's hard to resist the temptation to stay indifferent without having a look. Suddenly, she stops and looks around, hoping to find a place to sit. Your eyes meet at the chair next to you. In that moment, she's smiling at you. In her eyes, you see a question. Is this seat taken? Whether you like it or not, you start to feel the flow of adrenaline. Most likely, at that moment, you point the chair and invite her to the table. She says, "Thank you," introduces herself and starts to browse the menu. After a while, again, she looks and smiles at you, at the same time gently moves the chair away, wanting to give you more space. At this point, you get hooked, cannot focus more on your smartphone. You think only on how to start conversation. This is how attraction works, and this is how you want and should be perceived by your prospect making a cold call. Now imagine a slightly different situation. You sit at the same table as before, browsing the internet, and you notice the same girl. Only this time, there's no smile on her face. She's nervous. She's sitting next to you without asking for any non-verbal and verbal permission. And the drop of the head, she starts to talk about herself. How old is she? Where she lives? That she has already broken up with her boyfriend? About her look? About the number of followers on the Instagram? After 15 minutes of self-advertising, she tells what a great man you are and asks if you would like to go with her on a date. That she feels like you can become a wonderful couple. At that moment, you are probably just thinking how to get away. When making a cold call, all attempts to impress a potential client by talking about your and your company's achievements, high sales figures, product features, and happy clients destroy the rapport and are the main cause of rejection. How does rejection manifest in sales? You will hear, "I don't have time. It's not a right moment. Please send me an email. I don't need this type of product and service." This is rejection. You have to be honest with yourself. Whether you seem likable or repulsive to other people depends in large part on your charisma and your vitality. When you meet successful people, you can literally feel their strength and confidence. They get people's attention often before they say anything. Their relaxed body language, noticeable spark in the eye, calm and confident tone of voice make no one remain indifferent. Treat the sales process a bit like seduction. The communication of information should be proceeded gradually, progressively, step by step in the logical order resulting from the course of the conversation. When you brag about achievements, turnover, the number of satisfied clients at the very beginning, that doesn't make a good first impression. Qualifying is an indication of a low value behavior. People of high status, self-confident, act in the way like they don't have to prove anything. When they enter the room, they're dominant, and words leave no illusion that they feel confident. There's no place for needless marketing, promises, and vague intentions. Of course, it's clear that you must prove at some point that you can make someone's lives better and easier and give some information, but in a more subtle manner. Make a cold call. Focus on your client, not yourself. Don't follow any cold calling scripts, but plan all your questions in advance. Keep your prospect relaxed and don't try to sell before you recognize all the business opportunities. You have to build trust gradually. Don't count on that your prospect will start to answer to all your questions. It doesn't work like that, especially if you are dealing with a professional buyer and it's your first call. Make a cold call. The very first seconds are crucial. That's why never start with the broad introduction of your company, your offer, business proposal, and similar matters. Sorry, nobody cares, at least at the beginning. People get dozens of similar calls every week. Feel annoyed hearing about another fantastic business opportunity. To get your prospect attention, you need to stand out. You don't want to be seen as another sales guy who's just looking for an opportunity to sell something. As soon as the conversation starts, you need to position yourself as an expert and say things that help build your credibility. Let's take an example. Hello, Mr. Prospect. I am sure you know Mr. X, our mutual client who advised me to contact you as he believes that the assistance of my company might be helpful in the implementation of new project that you are currently working on. Or I know that X, Y, and Z is going on your industry. I know how it affects your business and I have a proven solution for that. Having good catch is more important than the company you represent and the product you offer. Your name means nothing making a cold call when you don't have any social proof. In other words, you need a good reason why your prospect should listen to you. This is where it all starts. So, if you truly know your client's problem, you know what they are struggling with on a daily basis, and in a few simple words, you will prove that you know what you are talking about, that you are a professional who successfully operates in the same market, that you are able to solve someone's problem, make someone's life easier, or gain an advantage in some area, you will arouse interest and attract your prospect attention. If you don't have anybody and anything to refer to, start simply by explaining the reason you call. Be confident. Don't show nervousness. Just say what you have to say and wait for the feedback. Being natural is the best what you can do. If you have ever been accosted by a stranger on the street, someone may have tried to invite you to a club, to a restaurant, ask for small change, whatever. The scenarios are usually very similar. You are going somewhere. The stranger approaches from the side, tries to sell you something, gives you a discount, encourages to try to enter somewhere, but you know very well what is going on. Most likely, you don't see any value in what you see and hear, and you don't think that the situation can bring anything positive to your life. Engaging in conversation seems to be nothing more than a waste of time. In extreme, suspicions are starting to grow, you try to move forward faster, rarely stopping because you are afraid of being tricked and scammed. Maybe you leave a smile and say thank you, but that's all. You may hear some single words behind your back, but at that moment you barely hear and understand their meaning. So keep this picture alive in your head every time you try to approach a new client and making a cold call. Especially, how do you feel when someone you don't know comes up to you and wants to sell you something? And don't get me wrong, I don't say you shouldn't use similar methods and look for more indirect and less invasive forms of contacts as many so-called sales guru advise. No, quite the opposite. The cold approach is one of the most effective and at the same time the most underrated sales skills nowadays. While many beginners find this intimidating, that's the real fun of selling. A skill that distinguishes the best salespeople from the rest who either don't know how to do it right or are afraid of rejection. You may ask right now, what some random guy you meet on the street has in common with professional selling? The image you just saw is a metaphor, how a clumsy salespeople look from the point of view of a professional buyer. This is also the reason why the cold calling is often perceived negatively as an overly invasive approach to the client. And sadly, there are strong foundations for doing so. Let's look at telemarketers, for example. Though it seems they should be trained to do it right, most of them recite dispassionately their sales lines and completely ignore their client. It doesn't matter what you need. The most important for them is to say everything that someone put in their sales script. Instead of open conversation, there is no room to share opinions for tough and uncomfortable questions. It's a natural human trait to conserve time and energy while maximize profits. Because our financial resources are limited and we don't have enough time to please everyone. People learn to ignore a lot and it comes to each of us more and more easily. So making a cold call before you start any commercial presentation and before you get to asking questions, you have to take care of the most important thing. You have to get the client's attention. It doesn't matter if you are making a cold call or approaching someone on the street. Before you get to the point, you need to make sure that full attention is on you and what you say. And you have to do it quickly. You have no more than a few seconds to catch your prospect attention, to show good intentions and deliver positive experience. And since you have a few seconds to do so, it should be communicated non-verbally for the most part. When approaching, you need to be aware of few things. Regardless of whether it's a phone call or a direct physical approach, you must be decisive and gentle at the same time. Meekness and lack of intensity is the main cause of rejection. When you approach someone for the first time, theoretically, you are in a weaker position than your prospect. Certainly not in a position of strength. It's your responsibility to make a good first impression. And indecisiveness and hesitations are signs of low-value behavior. In fact, if you are hesitating, you have just rejected yourself before anyone else did it, before you took the first step. And don't get me wrong, I know how difficult it can be, especially since our logical mind tells us to plan everything and be careful. But when you surrender to that inner voice, your self-confidence will drop immediately. Doubts will arise and you will start to feel that someone may not want to hear what you have to say. It's reflected in words, body language, voice, and become a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why approach must be decisive. This way you express self-confidence and high value that can be felt in your voice, quality of your words, and body language. Making a cold call, certainty must be felt from the very first moment. Most people, though, don't understand what that really means. Usually, they confuse decisiveness with high energy and upbeat tone of voice. Meantime, calm and composure is just as important. At the moment when you say hello, the calibration process begins. After you hear the first words and tone of voice of the person you are talking to, you need to read energy level behind these words. Is it high or low? The prospect is excited or calm, cheerful, relaxed, focused or thoughtful. Feeling and understanding this emotion is key to establishing the rapport. You have to be slightly higher with your energy, intensity and tone of voice than embody your prospect. If you hear a quiet, calm voice, modulate your own to that level. But remember, you should be one pitch higher. Leading the conversation and gaining the attention of the prospect requires a bit higher energy. Nonetheless, exaggeration distracts the rapport equally easily. Calibration refers to everything you see and hear. If the prospect is excited, speaks quickly and expressively, you can speak slowly and calmly, and that's the easiest way to be rejected. A sense of the emotional state of the people you talk to and ability of adaptation is key for establishing and building an initial rapport. You need to be sensitive and learn to recognize all signals that may indicate irritation, impatience, lack of competence or interest. Everything counts. The tone of your voice, modulation, pace of speaking, body language, and most importantly, constantly read emotion in and between words. It's necessary to go with the flow in the same direction, never the opposite. Respect both your own and your prospect time before you set a meeting. Make sure where you speak with the decision maker and whether there's a room for making a deal. If you have done everything right so far, you should be able to arrange the meeting very easily. But be patient. Sometimes your prospect schedule might be very tight and you will hardly be able to do something with that. Just explore logistic opportunities and be persistent in a smart way. If you show that you care too much, your value in the eyes of your potential client will drop dramatically. Face-to-face cold approach follows similar rules. I guess you are thinking right now, why do I even need this skill? Even if you don't accost people on the street to visit a club, a restaurant, you don't ask for change on the street, still the benefits are virtually limitless. Greater efficiency in establishing business contacts and fairs and exhibitions. No matter where you are able to get what you want. You don't need to wait for any favorable situation, time, and circumstances. The sales process is largely an information gathering process, which requires conversation with a huge number of people, often indirectly involved in sale itself. Getting approvals of decision makers, engineers, constructors, supervisors, subcontractors, managers, buyers, owners, and who knows who else. Making cold approach. For example, on the street, the two things you should pay special attention are your body language and timing. The main mistake people make is procrastination. People tend to look for the right moment. Think too long how to make first step, how to do it best, how to start conversation and what to say. In everyday life, every second determines success and failure. Some opportunities may not come again. Everyone certainly remembers such moment in his life when he regrets that he didn't do anything, didn't take what was within his reach. It's a natural human tendency, rather the nature of our brain to look for threats. The brain is a machine, a tool which main task over the millions of years of evolution of our species has been to looking for dangers by scanning the environment and detect risk. So the longer you wait, the more likely you will let go and abandon the idea of approach. At the same time, you will find a rational explanation for that fact, and what's more, you might even honestly believe in the rightness of the made decision. For this reason, when approaching and making a cold call, especially if you feel uncomfortable, you should act quickly and decisively to prevent overthinking. What are the most common rationalizations? It's not the right moment, convenient and good time for conversation. I'm not in the right mood. There are too many people around. I don't know what to say. I need a script. I need to prepare myself. I will do it tomorrow. Don't fall into this trap. Our brain makes excuses so you can feel better with yourself while procrastinating. Allows to maintain an image of self-confident guy. Finally, let go easily without any remorse. It's safer. It's how our psyche is designed. Though we can use it in our favor when we are aware of how it works. Namely, when decision is made, there should be no more room for unnecessary thoughts and rationalizations. It's like throwing yourself into action. When that happens, our brain instantly switches to a completely different mode and begins to play with you in the one team. It starts looking for a solution, adapts to the new environment. It makes you sharp and brilliant. Once you take the first step, there's no turning back. Research conducted by scientists around the world proves that every human being has great potential, but to unlock it, you have to get beyond your comfort zone. Learning social skills is mostly a subconscious process. A lot of repetition and drill is needed before the approach becomes smooth. Social calibration is one of the best ways to understand how human world works and what really means to learning from making mistakes. All because you get immediate feedback. Flat voice, poor eye contact and body language, and you experience immediate rejection. Some mistakes you can avoid by following certain rules. Others you have to experience to develop the right habits. Each of us has his own character traits that make us unique. That's why you have to develop your own style based on your inner strengths, not mindlessly copy the existing patterns and techniques which you find on YouTube, books or social media. Everything you learn must be tested first in the practice to introduce the necessary adjustments that will serve you best. Nevertheless, there are some strict rules to follow. When you're approaching someone, you should do it in the straightest, shortest line. Don't lurk in the shadows, around the corner, don't play any games. The path to go should be natural. Approach prospect the same way you meet with your friends. It's not so important what you say, but what is the energy behind your words? Smile and be relaxed. Keep good eye contact and ride comfortable distance. You can't cross the invisible line. It's a personal space that every human possesses and defends. If you cross the line, your prospect will instinctively take a step back and move away to feel good, which means you made him feel uncomfortable. When the distance between is too big, you are too far away, you will not establish a rapport and you will very fast lose your client's attention. This is a calibration process. Only practice will teach you that. Prospect should feel comfortable when you approach. If you do it certainly from the front when the prospect is walking, do in a way to enable your prospect to move further if he decides to do so. If the situation requires movement, you are both walking in the same direction. Approach and walk in a way that you are slightly in front and you are able to keep constant eye contact. If you do it right, your prospect should stop and you will get his full attention. When you talk to a man, you should start at small angle so he doesn't feel threatened. If to the woman centrally in the front, keep in the right distance. If you appear generally confident, relaxed and congruent, people will respond positively. The ability to make a cold approach, especially nowadays in the era of social media, is a very underrated skill. Majority of people prefer to send a message and wait for response even if they realize that it will never come, rather than take direct action. Fear of rejection blocks them. They are afraid of physical interaction. Meanwhile, the ability to make a good cold call approach, where is a cold call or face-to-face meeting, is the hallmark of the outstanding salespeople. It gives freedom and power. Proactivity in sales is paramount. Don't wait, just act. The one who has not mastered the skill of socializing doesn't drink the champagne, as the saying goes. So train daily conversation with newly met people wherever you are. In the office, in the shop, in the bar, on the street. Just everywhere. Pay the price, learn from mistakes, put your ego in the pocket, make yourself vulnerable, and your world will change dramatically. In any human interaction, there's always one person who has a stronger influence on the other. What means that reacts more than another. Usually people who have lower social status are more receptive to people who have a higher social status. It's mostly associated with state of possession, wealth, position in the company, and is expressed in a non-verbal way through self-confidence, self-control, tone of voice, and body language. People who have higher social status express their value instinctively. They don't have any insecurities. Strongly believe that people will listen to what they have to say. Don't afraid and expect rejection. High-value people speak clearly, are not in a hurry, believe that they have time to speak. Don't try to impress anyone. This is what your appearance should be like, making a cold call and approach people. Desperate chasing people is repulsive. Basically, there's nothing wrong with that, but style matters. Nobody likes when someone tries to sell them something. People put in that moment an invisible shield of resistance. Representing a higher value means you don't need anything from anyone because you have everything you need. Successful people give value, don't want it from others. Selflessness and freedom from outcome give your approach a real power. If you want your clients to put their shield aside, you have to make them feel relaxed. Don't put the pressure. Being relaxed opens the mind of people around for new ideas. Despite the good intentions you may have, if you try too hard, it can backfire. Try too hard, make a cold approach brings the opposite effect. Think of it this way. If you want to give or even sell something valuable that is supposed to be useful for your client, why are you trying so hard? What's the first thought? I will tell you. Maybe it's not like you say, and you don't have many options, that you lack of resources. A man who doesn't see future in the bright colors desperately grabs every opportunity, behaves repulsively, feels fear and anxiety. The mind in a state of scarcity makes you act like it's a matter of life and death. The way out of that state leads through building a different reality. A life where you have many business opportunities and alternatives of choice. Having an abundance of resources, that is, many potential clients, make you behave quite differently. When you don't have to care about winning everyone, only those who deserve it, it makes a difference. Desperation will not be felt in the sales process and you will naturally start to attract people to you. Okay, but someone may ask right now, how to achieve state of abundance when my sale sucks? I get it. It takes time to build solid, loyal customer base, high sales figures and relationships. There's no way around. Even if you are doing everything right, you need to be patient. Nonetheless, achieving state of abundance is still possible by reversing the order of the process. The same way, like you can change your inner state by doing exercise when you feel tired, it's possible to imitate the state of abundance. In fact, it's our subconscious that defines our reality. You can be a real champion and feel like a shit, and to be a loser whose ego shoots to the sky. Your subconscious mind can adopt each of these realities, but it cannot be deceived. You have to truly believe you have an abundance of choices. If you have no doubts, you can start changing the software and create new reality. Building a new mindset and habits is a long process, but over time, all thought patterns become addictive. Paradoxically, the less you care, the more naturally you behave. The more charisma in what you do, the more attractive you are. When in real life, you manage to reach a state of abundance, you got loyal clients, build a solid sales structure, your monthly and annual sales figures will start to close smoothly. You will notice that your approach changes naturally as well as how you feel. There will be no more neediness felt in your voice. Peace of mind will be the dominant feeling. You will not feel any pressure. Recognizing a client's real needs will become what you care the most, not getting an outcome. Natural spontaneity and sense of humor will boost your vibe. People will start to trust you because you will not need anything from them. Start and keep this visualization in your head. Take action and eventually you will begin to reflect this state of mind. Reverse the order, trust the process. Who you will become is the ultimate reward. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.